Well, like it or not, it's Friday.
We have the door open. That's why our sunglasses are activated.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm doing my best Roy Orbison imitation. What was I going to say? Yes, it's Friday and it's strangely warm after being incredibly cold for a long time. So we're kind of getting the sun in, which is a very important thing to do. Mm-hmm. Very important. Well, we're going to launch into it because we got doings transpiring and we got to get on the road. So let's do wrist check. 6105, 8,000. This is the 8,000, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, this is a great one. It has a service crown, but a service crown and no, just a service crown. This is a great watch. Birth year, birth month watch for me.
Not me.
Anyway, and I am wearing, here we go, my Panda, 6139, 6138, 8020. It's a beautiful watch. That's all original. 100% original dial. Cool. Let's do it.
KVW's Hoyer calculator watch. Walther 9161. My Hoyer Carrera 1971 reverse Panda 73653N has had a poor dial refinishing at some point. Would you advise I refinish it considering it's probably devalued anyway?
Well, yeah, I have, like, on the subject of redialing, I own my great uncle's Rolex 1016 Explorer.
I think you tell this story every week.
well, this one particularly because the dial was ruined. He ruined the watch several times. He had the original dial, or he had a replacement dial put in that had been refinished. It's a specific kind of refinish. It looks like the gilt edge 1016 dials with the chapter ring on them. It's a very particular reprint that was done by a place in, I think they were in Arizona or something. I've actually seen other dials done by that same company. You could tell they actually have a scratched signature on the back. But the first dial that he had redone, I mean, it was terrible. I mean, it wasn't great printing. It looked pretty sloppy and gross. I would imagine that if I pulled that dial today and sent it off to be reprinted, I'm sure that I could find a company that would do a really, really solid job, because people are a lot more, anal about getting stuff correct now than they were in the past. So I wonder if I could actually do that. Because I've got Uncle Dick's dial. I could always do that, send it back off. I mean, I've done a pretty okay job of stabilizing it, but it still doesn't look great. He filled the watch completely with pool water, and the dial, the gloss gilt surface of the dial, peeled up like mud cracks. And it was, when I got it, it was just the entire top layer that had the dial printing on it was just flaking off. It was in such bad condition. I've managed to kind of save it, but really, it might be better just to get the dial refinished.
When were pools invented?
What do you mean?
Like, okay, so there were, like, ponds or whatever, and then there's chlorinated water, and people have pools.
Well, the Romans were big into pools.
But they didn't have chlorinated water, did they?
No. I mean, not. I don't believe so. They used aquifer waters. But yeah, a Roman bathhouse, a private residence in Pompeii or Herculaneum was just unveiled for the world. It was just found, and it had a gigantic, like, 3-stage sauna built into the place, including a huge cold pool.
Okay, well, but that's not what I'm talking about.
No, I understand, but I'm like, I wonder if they did. How do you clean stuff? Do you have to just have slaves go and scrub the walls all the time? I don't know. I mean, how advanced their knowledge of chemicals was. I don't think they did any kind of water purification or anything like that.
Well, if anybody knows, let me know, even though I'm going to probably research it after this. 4SK Seiko 6105 8000 restoration. NC Brady, great video. Do you have any videos where you show what you are adjusting while doing the beat error test to get it keeping time properly? Here we only see the results of your changes, but not what you are actually doing in the watch.
I've done it a few times. The problem is that, frankly, it's just I've never taken the time to look into the kinds of camera setups that other watchmakers use in order to get their stuff done. I need to upgrade my equipment. What would be great is if I had something that would film through, my vision of what I'm seeing, because then I'd be right there and you could see what I'm seeing. But at the same time, I guess I haven't been thinking about doing that so much because filming a watch job is pretty time consuming. I used to do taking it apart and putting it back together, and it made the jobs just last forever because I had to, I had to move carefully and deliberately and slowly, and it just added a lot more time. But if somebody has a suggestion, any equipment that they're aware of that would be good for this, let me know. I have shown it in the past. If you look on my Seiko 101 playlist, there might be something there. I remember doing it. So that's not super helpful, but it's a start.
Eric Boyza 854. Enjoy the vid as always. Where did you get the movement holder with the brass handle? Can you give me a link?
No, it's antique, it's vintage. When the big local old guy watchsmith here, when he packed it in and decided he was retiring, I went over there and I picked up a huge portion of his stuff, and that holder was in it. It has no maker mark. It's made of, I think it's made of enameled cast iron. If I believe it might be a base metal, a pot metal. I'm not sure, but then it's got those springs and that beautiful knurled, brass tightener. It's really cool, but I don't know who made it or when. If I was looking for one, I would go on eBay and put vintage movement watch holder black.
Of all weird places also, I'd look at Etsy. I know that seems kind of weird because it's mostly crafting stuff, but they have a lot of weird watch stuff on there too.
They do, actually. They sell the usual things like giant watchmakers, lots of a pound of gears, random gears. You're not going to make a watch out of it, but there's so much material that
you might find something.
Yeah.
The 3 known Special Forces MACV SOG Seiko watches. Jim Collins 9999. Excellent video, Spencer. More info has come out since your video here, but you hit on great points. I have an original 6119 8090 issued example, which was authenticated. When was your video, and what is the new anything?
I think that video was probably 2016.
Wow.
It could be later. Honestly, the years just skip by.
I know.
I don't know what the new information might be. I don't know if a new model has been added. The one that I'm waiting for is when we get confirmation that the 6106 MACV SOG has been confirmed as an issued piece. I'm personally pretty certain that it must have been, because it's the exact same configuration as the 6119 and the 6619 examples. It has the same color, gray, brown, green dial with the radiating sort of iridescence in it from the metal undercoat, with the green big grained Diny style loom, full printed matte markers. And that is, the 6106 had that same thing. I just don't see how you would have 4 very, have these close models and have that one just randomly not be one that was issued.
So, I wasn't listening. Did you just say what the new info is, or do I have to ask you
I don't know what the new info is.
I need to ask you for the new info because I'm curious and
I don't know
want
what
an answer.
I assume, the thing is, I don't really go on the forums, and so in a way, I'm kind of, I'm kind of out of the loop on some stuff.
So.
And there's new, new information coming out about all kinds of things, and maybe I'm not up to speed.
Well, that's why we have you, kind viewer, to keep us up to speed.
Indeed. Indeed.
4JB Seiko 6139 6005 restoration. East Bay Golfer. Spencer, I'm stumped and hope you can shed some light. A friend picked up a 6106-6439 UFO without stem or crown. Finding a stem assembly with gear and spring is near impossible and costly if found. Can we purchase a replacement stem 354615 and crown 50M04NS1 without spring and gear and still have access to the quick set functions, or does the 6106-6439 require a complete stem assembly to function?
I actually answered this question for the customer in an email, but it's a good question and it's an interesting one. These watch models, 6139, 6000 blank, or the 6106 sport divers, 6119 sport divers, the ones that have an internal rotating indicator ring that's around the dial and underneath the glass. So you turn the crown and it turns the ring. All of those, they use a stem that's 4 parts. And you've got the stem itself, which has a square center section. Then you've got the sliding pinion that goes on there. Then you have the indicator gear, indicator ring gear, then the indicator ring gear spring, and then the crown. Those things all together, built to the right length, because you can't just say, go for it. You have to actually cut down the stem depending on the watch case model. But then you need those things in order to turn the indicator ring. You can absolutely just put the stem and the crown in and you will get access to the quick set. No problem whatsoever. So it's a valid, interesting question, and one that I wanted to give an answer to.
KBW State of the Collection 2024. Arthur George. I love the realness of this with the noises in the background.
Somebody was complaining. There was one night when you were banging or something.
I was banging?
Somebody was banging. And when I was making it, I was like, and then somebody said, that banging. So it's not.
Did you make it in the evening where children home?
Possibly. It's nobody's fault but mine. It's none of you are gonna. You guys aren't expected to, live like you have an apartment over a church. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
I'm trying to figure it's probably Sebastian.
We're a noisy house with noisy people and noisy children. And, life happens and family life happens and family is loud and my office is in the house and will be for the foreseeable future. And so it's just loud. Believe me, when I'm talking or doing a video or whatever, and I hear some horrible slamming or screaming from upstairs. I just inwardly I wince because I feel bad because there's somebody on the other side there listening to that going.
Yeah, if his video is quiet, it's because it's during the day when the kids aren't home.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Anyway, great to hear the stories behind each piece you own. You probably already know this, but the lugs on the Rolex are thinner on the right-hand side to balance out the sides of the crown guards. They do the same thing, but it's more noticeable with the Daytona. I didn't know that.
It's great information, and I didn't know that because it was the one thing about, he's talking about my Rolex 168000. It's a standard aluminum insert, Submariner. And I did notice that if you look down from the top, is that the left side of the watch case is fatter. It sticks out more. And then the other side, those lugs are actually pushed in. They're thinner. And yes, you've got the crown guard. But I thought, oh man, somebody must have just wrecked the front side of that watch and they had to have it machined down or something. Oh, my case is all jacked up, and it has a bad rework on it and I can't believe it. And it was a sticking point for me for a while. And then somebody gave me this information and boy, it all just makes sense now. And in fact, it makes me like the watch even more because now it's asymmetrical.
So the first pool was the Great Bath in modern day Pakistan from the 3rd millennium BC.
Wow.
Yep.
I wonder, so that means we know where the first lifeguard was.
And then pools became popular, like what I was talking about, in Britain in the mid-19th century. So.
Okay, that's very interesting anyway, but somebody had to be the first lifeguard.
Yep.
Somebody had to be the first lifeguard. Mm-hmm. Just like there was the first person to eat an oyster.
Yeah. Who said, ooh, this delicious slimy thing, I'm going to totally eat it.
They're like,
That bear is eating it. Maybe I can eat it too.
when you're hungry, what do they say? Hunger is the best spice.
I suppose.
Whatever.
I don't think it would be for Willow.
My oyster eating days are over.
No, thank you.
We used to live with my dad during World War II when my dad was a kid. His father was a machinist, a master machinist, so much so he was deemed to be critical to the war effort here back in the States. And so they also had an unlimited gas card. Their gas was not rationed. So during the war, Dad remembered they would go on vacations out to Cape Cod. They would drive to Cape Cod from Connecticut, Bridgeport, Connecticut, where they lived. And he just absolutely loved going to the Cape because you could go out there and rent little cabins. And so when Dad sort of quasi-retired, he put some money into buying a horrible little beach house on Cape Cod. But the nice thing was, it was on the beach.
The generator was an engine.
The generator was an engine in a car.
Yeah.
In a car on the front lawn. It was a Cadillac, actually, that had like sunk down to the hub, but you could still in theory get it running, and that was their backup energy for that house. But anyway, it was on Buzzards Bay, and Buzzards Bay, the basin of it's covered in oysters, and there's all kinds of quahogs and all kinds of stuff. I have fished up many a bivalve out there, but I don't know. Oysters are just too much work. Well, plus I feel badly for them. They're just trying to be oysters, man. And quahogs, turns out they could be really old.
Really?
Yeah. One of the oldest living animal since ever known was this quahog up in off of Newfoundland or something. And the thing was 400 something years old. And they found out after it was already dead.
Oh.
They just live forever, and you can count the rings on their shells. And I'm like, the quahogs in Buzzards Bay have those exact same rings. Does anybody know how old the quahogs are in Buzzards Bay?
Well,
They could be many centuries old.
wow.
What wisdom have they to impart to us? That's a long time to be a clam.
Yeah, but you're just hanging out.
That's a really long time to be cold and wet. You're just cold and wet for centuries.
That doesn't sound like fun.
I wouldn't enjoy it.
No.
Wouldn't be my first pick. I mean, so there you go. Do we have another question?
No, that's it.
Really? That was the end of it?
Yeah.
Heavens to Betsy. Well,
We kind of blew through it.
well, that's what she said. Okay, that's it, folks, I guess. And I just, wasn't there a question about a 6138?
I think what happened was you accidentally posted that question and that question are the same.
Okay, there was one more question from a person with a 6138 where they had pulled the stem and now they couldn't get it back in again. 6138s are particular that they have a winding pinion and they have a sliding pinion. The sliding pinion is what interacts with the winding pinion when you're winding. That piece, that winding pinion, is just kind of loose. It's rattling around a little bit. So when you pull a stem on a 6138, the crown has to be all the way in because then the sliding pinion is slammed up against the winding pinion and keeps it in place where it's supposed to be. If you release the stem when it's set to time setting or date correction, then this thing can fall out of place. And you try to get the stem in coming on this way, and you can't do it. The first thing to try to do is to take the watch and have it crown down like this. So this is a 6138 actually on my wrist. So you want to get it crowned down and just tap it a little bit. You're going to try to see if you can get that winding pinion to flap down. And while you're doing that, with the crown, just trying to get it in. See if you can get it to drop in. I've had success doing that. And if you can't do that, you have to rip the entire front of the movement off, the entire calendar side and all of the 12-hour wheel levers and everything, and the keyless works. You have to rip those all the way down to correct that. So I would keep trying. There's another key point too. Boy, that would be, because you can see the edge of the setting lever on the side of the movement right above the stem. And sometimes that setting lever gets pushed too far out. So it's like almost proud beyond the edge of the movement. And that setting lever, and you can actually click that back in. That's another thing to consider. But again, try to just have it crown down like this and try to tap it and get that winding pinion to drop where it's supposed to be. I don't know. Good luck. You're welcome to write me if you have any questions, and that's about it.
And I want to know that new information on that watch.
Indeed. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for watching, and keep those questions coming. Thank you. We'll talk to you later on.
Bye.
Bye.